How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic. I'm
That's good to
glad
hear.
to talk to you once again. It feels like it's been a while. What can I say? You
Yeah.
know, so glad to
Yeah.
be here.
hmm
We're glad to
Well,
have you.
yeah, I was just gonna say we're happy to have you on here as well. We see the hard work that you put in out there and just the light that you shine on creatives around the world as well. So we see you.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
and we
definitely
just
appreciate that.
Yeah.
yeah, we just talked to you yesterday, right?
Hmm.
We got to be a guest on your podcast
hmm
I was gonna say, I hope
and
I did a good job.
Oh, you did great.
Wasn't
You did
great,
yes,
great.
but that's awesome.
yes, the
Yeah.
Thank you.
Proven Knowledge podcast
hmm
and it was pretty fun being on the other side of the interview,
Yeah.
Hmm.
getting asked the questions.
Had us a little nervous. No.
Yeah, I like it. I like it better because I get nervous on the other
Yeah,
side, but
hmm
I'm pretty good at answering.
For the most part.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
you guys should do more of that for sure. Get on other
Yeah.
people's platforms and just share what you guys are doing because what you're doing is incredible. And I think more people didn't need to know about it even on other platforms like that. So I think you guys did great, and I it was a great conversation. So
Oh, thank you so much.
mhm.
Like
Yeah,
we
thank
do
you.
our best to make sure that we're on point and staying on point with things like that. But we just want to give a big shout out to you for also doing that. And it just makes us feel good that someone that has that same oomph to help creatives out there is doing it and
Mhm.
going hard at it. And
Mhm.
we know it takes time, work, and dedication. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really just like you guys know, it's kind of just giving back and just kind of doing your part. And you meet so many cool people along the way. So it's really just, if you love it, you have the passion for it, and you want to see other people win too. So it's just like, why not give back in that way? Um, and just get to make those connections with awesome people. And just for the last like 3 years, I've been able to do it and just meet so many awesome people. So I definitely going to keep it up and just keep that consistency going. So,
No, that's right.
Yeah, I want to ask you more about that, about your podcast. First of
Mhm.
all, you've been doing it for 3 years,
Mhm.
right? And you do it once a
mhm.
week.
Yeah, once a week. The only week I take off is usually the last week of the year, like New Year's, Christmas time. I'll take that week off as kind of like a reset week, and I'll just start planning for January, and then I just go straight through. And the good thing about it is I can usually record like 4 or 5 weeks in advance. So I just have my guest list, and I'll just check people off one at a time, and that allows me to have time to edit and get everything ready for social media and do all that stuff. So that's kind of like the workflow that I found that worked best because when it started out, it was, I didn't have a lot of people. Like I would have a few people that I asked and they would be on the show. But it took me a while to get used to like being in the flow state of being able to put out episodes every week and just keep that
Mhm.
consistency going. So once I figured out that, I could record them in advance and then just get all the content ready and put them out one by one, then it's worked out perfect to be able to do it. And I always have people ask me, how have I been able to do it this long for, this many weeks in a row? That's all it is just planning and just executing the plan. Um, and that's just what it is for the podcast currently. And it's worked great for me and it's kept me from going insane because, you got to book the guests and everything and you got to do a lot of the groundwork too. And cool thing now is that I have a lot of people reaching out to me because at the beginning it was just I was trying to get in contact with these people. So now I have like past guests, they'll suggest it to one of their friends or I'll have someone find me on social media. I've had PR people reach out, wanting their artists to be on. Um, so I think it's cool now that it's big enough now and it's been around long enough where other people know about it without me having to always tell people about it. So that's super helpful too, and that makes things a lot easier. But it's really just getting that schedule in place to be able to do it at that level and then have the good feedback. It's like you want to keep doing it. So that's really like what it's been since the beginning.
Oh, that's so powerful. I
Yeah,
love
right.
that. I'm
And
sorry about the tears that are falling down my face right now. It's just that my eyes are super sensitive.
I was
So
gonna
we try
say,
to get
if
it
I made
on.
you cry, if I made you cry that early, I think
Yeah,
we're in for a nice episode here.
So
But
powerful.
powerful.
Yes.
Well, it
We're-
is though, because
Hmm,
we have a lot of similarities in what we do, right? You do
mhm.
everything yourself. Like we make graphics and artwork and music, and you make music, right? You're a
Yep,
producer.
yep.
You do Fruity Loops and all different kinds of beats, right? So
Yeah, I've been at that for 7 years now. So next month, actually, 7 years.
wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, we'll get more into that, but
Mhm.
to back up a little bit, we have similarities. Like you interview artists, and you're also running independent business where you're making beats, and
Mhm,
um it's kind of cool because you do everything yourself. Also, you do your graphics, you do your promotion, and I think one of the things that we don't find that's as relatable as we find with you is that you're really putting your heart into it. You're really doing it as like an act of service. And I think that's so powerful and really needs to be recognized and like normalized for us to really be putting our heart into like loving and supporting each other.
mhm.
Right. I think that's so important.
That's nice.
And it's great to have you in our life now, because kind of feel like we put our heads together. Oh, we're on the same page,
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
kind of got the same vision in a way. And it's interesting because I was just talking to Amanda about, we're all about the queens. We got a lot of queens, but there's something powerful about having that male energy as well to
Mhm.
balance things out. And so we ran across you and we're like, oh great. Now we have, someone we can talk to about the same things that,
Mhm.
we're interested in.
And you understand
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
exactly what we mean when we say it. So
Uh-huh.
that makes it twice as good.
Right. And we
Yeah.
got a lot of questions for you about, not just your podcast, but also you producing and making music. And I guess let's start with, how you got started doing your podcast and how that came about. And the other question before I forget is I wanted to know real quick, what else in your life are you that committed to? Because doing a podcast every week for 3 years, that's a major commitment. And it's
Mhm.
not just um like going to I guess it's kind of like going to the gym. Maybe you can compare it to that, like a commitment, and like almost like a work study. How did it get started, and what else in your life are you that kind of committed person,
Mhm.
to everything else?
So yeah, so I know that I started it in 2020, the spring, around the time of the pandemic. So the job that I had during like the winter, springtime of that whole period, we all kind of got laid off, and it was kind of one of the things where we didn't know if we were going to get brought back or not or whatever. So I had a lot of free time, and I was still just making music, doing my normal thing every day. But I started listening to more podcasts because I hadn't really been into podcasts that heavily, and I knew that it was something that was kind of taking off. And 2020 is kind of where it skyrocketed because a lot of people started their shows that year. So my friend and I, we already had the podcast. It was the same name because we founded Proven Knowledge, the collective, together. And it was kind of just a way to put out our music and have it like a brand to release things under. But when we did the podcast, we would just talk about all kinds of random things. Like we would do music stuff, like our favorite albums of the year, but then we'd also do like sports, news, and all kinds of stuff. So we kind of weren't consistent with it, and it was just all over the place. So I really wanted to like refocus it to what the brand was about to begin with, which is music. And so I heard a podcast, these two brothers, and they're called It's the Real, and they interview artists from all over the world. They actually just did a series called The Blog Era last month, and it was one of the best podcasts I've ever heard. You guys should definitely check that out. But I was listening to It's the Real, and what they were doing during the pandemic was they lived in New York, so they were on complete shutdown, and they would call up artists that they already knew, and they would interview like three artists a day virtually through the phone. So I was like, oh, I never thought about that. I always thought of, you just interview people in person. That's really the only way. But then obviously that's when, Zoom kind of took off, doing FaceTimes, doing all the virtual stuff took off. So I thought to myself, like, a good way to connect with artists in a different way would be to do these interviews. So let me reach out to the people that I already know and just ask them if they'd be interested. And like I said earlier, I was just reaching out to probably like 4 or 5 people, and I got overwhelming. Everyone was like, yeah, that would be awesome. So I just started doing it, and then one thing kind of leads to another. And then by the time you know it, you're 3 years in, and now all this stuff has happened. And I think the way that I became consistent with it was because I grouped it with the music stuff. And I think that's what really helped, is because I knew that I wanted to talk about music with other people, and I wanted to create a platform that others could come on and share their story. And because I care about it so much, why would I not want to be consistent with it? Just like the music. So it's like I already was at the point where I was consistent enough with making beats and sending to artists and doing that whole side. So I really just incorporated the podcast into that whole world. And so now it's like infused with everything else. So I can use the podcast to connect with these artists, and then, I could end up working with those artists further and further, moving forward. And so I think that's really where it is. I don't think that I've ever been as committed to anything other than music related things. And again, that's why the podcast is music, because it's like I know I want to talk about that stuff, and I know I want to hear other people's stories and input. And so there'll never be a shortage of me like just putting my all into that. So that's really like where it is. And like everything else I've ever done, I feel like I've always like dabbled at it, or just like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and never really just went anywhere. I never had that passion for it. But I think once you find like what you feel is right, then you just keep going. And the podcast definitely has become that, as well as the music, just based off the topic alone. So I hope that covered all the question right there. But
Yeah.
You
yeah,
covered some of it. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you did really good. That's fire.
Yeah.
That's fire. It's
Well,
really inspiring.
it's interesting because I think the pandemic really connected us in a different way.
Mhm.
And I think it's good that the pandemic kind of normalized these long distance calls, because I've been saying for years, why do people even have to go to work all the time?
Mhm.
Because a lot of work can be done from home.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you started interviewing uh people with another person, right? You had a kind of like a show type of podcast where you did news and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you
So
just decided to start taking it seriously.
yeah.
Do you picture your brand and your podcast going, worldwide? How big do you see it getting, and how long do you feel like you might be committed to it?
Mhm. I really just I try not to look too far into the future, I guess, with it. I think it's just cool to even look back, like, because it's been around for 5 years now. Just to look back before it even was in existence, and you're like, wow, that's kind of cool. We just came up with this idea, and now we're working with all these artists. Like we're even doing a Proven Knowledge album now, where we have a lot of the artists that we worked with, some other producers. We're actually wrapping that up right now, which is pretty cool. And just building the whole brand and just seeing different people talk about it now. And like I said, getting the feedback from others is really cool. So I definitely just want to keep it going at a consistent basis and just watch it elevate. Because I think just watching the journey is the cool part. And just being able to live it in real time. And who knows where it could go. I definitely want to keep it going. I don't envision shifting to anything else anytime soon. And even just like my personal brand under my name, just doing things like that and just seeing where that can go. I kind of just view it all in the same like category, and just, you never know who you're going to meet and along the way, and just making those different, like connections, or just having those things in common with people where they can reach out to you and say, what you're doing is unique, and I definitely appreciate it. And I think proven knowledge will always be that. But we'll always have that in mind, even if there's different ventures involved eventually. Um, I just think it's always going to have the same real like catalyst for why we created it in the first place. And that's just to give people an outlet to be creative and just to be themselves too. Um, so I view it elevating over time. So I think it's just continuing to put the work in to make that happen. So
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, you are putting the work in for sure. Uh, I'm curious, have you ever been on a guest on another podcast?
actually, yeah, I've been because this year I kind of made it a goal for myself to be on more podcasts. Like last year, I started reaching out to more people. I was on a lot of blogs last year, like doing write-ups about my music and stuff. And this year I wanted to be on a lot more podcasts as well. I had a guest on my podcast. He's a rapper from Philadelphia. His name is King Shamps. And something he always talks about is the importance of, putting yourself out there in that way, going on these different platforms, letting people know who you are. And you never know who's listening. You know what I mean? You might have people hear your episode that you were on, and then they become a fan of what you're doing, and then they go check out your Instagram, your Twitter, all that stuff. So I kind of took like what he has said to heart, and me and him talk a lot like through social media when he drops music or I drop music. So I made it a goal for myself to be on more podcasts this year. I think I've already been on probably 6 or 7 so far this year. And just gonna try to get a lot more before the end of the year too, and just keep that something that I do hopefully like once a month, get on someone else's platform and just be able to speak and share my story and, like I said, see who resonates with that. And then I just believe you always attract the right people. Um, so just like I said, and really just expanding like my digital footprint too. That's obviously a big thing now. It's like if you're not on, if they can't go to Google and search you and you don't come up, it's like that's not really good nowadays. You kind of got to be where they are, and just trying to be on the different platforms, things like that. And so I just go and I find these cool podcasts platforms, and I usually just reach out, just like I did with you guys, just reach out and introduce myself. And then what they do with it is up to them. If they want me to come on the show, that's fine. If they don't, I never take it personally. Um, but it's just something else to add to the arsenal of what's going on over here. And I just want to keep that going. And it is cool to be on the other side because you're hosting so much, and sometimes you want to step back. And I'm like, oh, for these, I don't even have to plan for these. I just show up and I just speak. Like I don't have to get the questions. I don't have to plan the dates. Well, I kind of have to plan the date, but not really. Like I don't have to plan every little thing. Um, so it's kind of just cool to see it from both sides, and it helps as a host too because you're able to hear other people's questions. Maybe you want to add those questions into your show. You know what I mean? Maybe you want to ask some similar questions on future episodes. So it's been nothing but good being able to do it. And um, even looking back to like 4 years ago, I probably would have never done it just because of I always feel like I'm more of an introvert anyway. Like I'm not in all these social settings. I'm not going out like Friday night, Saturday night, and being with all these people. I'm kind of just like in with myself most of the time. So like having the conversations too has helped me grow as a person, no matter if I'm a guest or the host. So yeah, that's really like how I view podcasting, and I definitely would encourage others to, artists, whatever you do. If you care about what you do and you want to share it with people, it's a great way to do that and show them your true self. So
Oh yeah.
I love that response. I really do. And I feel like you definitely just hit something right on the nail, especially for like me. I know for a fact that I love to talk. So having a podcast where I can express myself with like-minded individuals who are also looking for that connection because of social media. We're not nearly as close to each other as we used to be.
yeah.
And this podcast has really helped open my mind and open doors to see people and let people know that they are valued and that they are seen. So it does have a very powerful effect on you. I believe that.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
And I agree. I agree. I like how you said you don't take it personal if somebody, doesn't respond.
Yeah.
But do you have any funny stories? Like, I'm sure things have gone wrong after 3 years of podcasting. Like, have you ever had uh like a booger on your face, or just something in your teeth, or something like that happen?
Yeah. I can't recall that, but there's always time to make that happen, I guess. When you do it every week, who's to say that's not going to happen? Um, I think like as far as maybe, things that didn't go as planned, it's more of like trying to get people on the same page. Maybe we book a date to do it and then something comes up for the person or they misunderstood the time or something like that. I had one guest like a few years ago. He like called me and we did probably like 5 to 10 minutes of the interview. Then he had to go and he had another call. Then he came back and we did another like 20 minutes and then he had another call just because he was so busy and he was just like, oh, I got to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, so it took us like 3 hours to get like a 45-minute podcast done. So I had to keep like stopping in the middle of the show and like marking my place on the questions. And then I had to just edit the whole thing together. So I've had things like that, but overall, nothing like too crazy. Obviously, fingers crossed because like I said, there's still time. I'm not saying none of this could ever happen, but overall, I can't really think of like a ton of crazy moments yet. I think like doing it virtually helps to avoid that too, because you don't have to worry about, I got to drive to this location or I got to
Mhm.
find this person and my whole setup. I got to get the mic set up and make sure everything's working. It's like you can do that behind the scenes on your own, and then you just call them up and you're good to go for the most part. So, and I always try to like vet people too, I guess. If they're a guest on my show, I don't want just anyone who's not serious and they're probably just not going to show up. You don't want those people. And like I said, I get that people have to live life too. So like if we got to reschedule and they're cool about it and we just do that, then it's fine. Um, but yeah, so far so good. I mean, I always just try to make sure that who I have on the show is someone that I want to be on and someone that wants to be on. And then just on my part, just trying to be ready and just be prepared and not be unprofessional in any type of way or just, act like arrogant or something. I don't know. I hope I never come off like that to anyone. So I just try to do my part as well as the host to um just do a good job. But
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So we had we haven't had too much like that, but we did have the power go out
oh
on
no.
one.
Yeah.
And other than that, so far it's been pretty good. But
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
started doing the video, which is a little more nerve-wracking because I get a little, I guess we all get a little self-conscious and I'll be like,
Mhm.
oh, my hair, or but it's also helping my confidence because
Hmm.
I'm like, you know what, let's just go for it. It's a Rasta hairstyle and I'm gonna own it.
Mhm.
And we just kind of rock with it. And yeah, it's pretty interesting running a podcast and doing all that scheduling, but I guess I have another question because it's not related to the podcast, but I want to know more about you producing music. You say you've been
Hmm.
doing it for 7 years, and we want to know how you got started doing that.
Yeah. So pretty much all of my high school years, which was 2012 through 2016, I was kind of just studying music production. Like I kind of found out what producing was around like 2011, I think. Um, and it kind of just blew my mind that you could be one person and make all these arrangements. Because I used to just think everything was traditional music where you had to have a band and every person was playing a different part. But then I found out like, no, you could have a laptop and like make albums for people. So that was like super cool to me. Um, and so I just started studying different producers for like 4 years. I was kind of on the fence about, do I want to do this or do I not? I had like the free version of FL Studio on my parents' computer. So I would just go on there and mess with like the drum pattern or something. And like there was no sounds in there, there was no anything. So I couldn't actually like export these projects or anything. I would just go mess around and make these really terrible patterns or whatever. And I did that for a couple of years. And then it wasn't until after high school where I actually got started. So my friend and I, we took a trip to California to stay with his aunt and uncle for the week. And we kind of just got inspired out there by the creativity. And it's kind of cool how you come from a place like the Midwest, Ohio, where I'm at, where there's really no creative opportunity as far as like jobs and things like that. It's really like blue collar, like you go and you work on machines or you just get a normal job. There's really no creative energy anywhere. Then you go to somewhere like California and it's complete opposite. You run into artists on every block, you know what I mean? Like, and they're doing it for their career, or they're at least trying to do it for their career. So just being inspired by that. And then we were already talking about doing music. Um, so by the time we got back, you know, we kind of just made it the decision like I was going to produce, he was going to rap. And we kind of just started and really haven't stopped since then. And for me, it was just, you know, once I got back, I got a laptop for college and I kind of just used the laptop for college to start music. And I just downloaded the full version of FL Studio. I bought it because I was like, I want to make the investment because it'll show that I'm actually serious about it. Like if you invest that money, you're gonna want to use it. You're gonna want to like actually put the time in to learn it. Could have definitely got the free version or the illegal version, but then it's like, well, are you serious about this or are you not serious about it? So for me, just doing that was a big thing. And then just every day, just I started making these ideas and made so many terrible ideas for the first like year or so. I didn't even feel comfortable about sending out my music for about a year and a half to anyone. So it was just me and him kind of making ideas, or I would just make certain things in my house. And that was pretty much like what it was. And then from there, it's just evolved every year. You know, you connect with different people, you make 10 times more tracks, you get better and better. And um, yeah, but that's kind of just how it started was, you know, using that trip as extra motivation to finally start. And then it was like, okay, you know, if I try this, maybe I'll like it. But the only way to know is to actually try. 'Cause you could psych yourself out and, you know, you might not even put in the effort to begin, and then you'll never know, you know, what could have happened. So I definitely never wanted to be that person to let that opportunity slip by because then I would have regretted it. And I know it would have been a regret. So I'm definitely glad I made the decision to begin. And every time I look back, I'm just like, that was definitely the biggest decision I've made, probably the most important decision of my life, just shifting it in such a positive direction too. And before that, I felt like I never really had any direction or anything that was like my own that I could do and that I felt good about just by myself. Like I can do this alone. I don't need anybody around to still make music. So that's how you know, I think when you made that right decision, you can still wake up every day and just do it out of love for it, you know, no matter if someone hears it or not. So that's kind of how it got started. So 7 years this month though. So
That's
Wow.
pretty freaking cool.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
thank
Because
you.
we listen to your beats and you're really good for sure. You definitely have some skills. We we have more Fruity Loops questions, but we'll probably save that for not the podcast because
Later.
Amanda is a genius when it comes to beats. And if I give her one of
Thank
those
you.
little beat pads on the phone or like GarageBand or even on Fruity Loops with just the we don't know what we're doing with Fruity Loops yet. Both of us just open it and it's like alien. But she still comes up with stuff, even though we haven't fully dove into its capabilities. But we'll save that for another time off air and maybe pick your brain more about that
Okay.
because
I'm down to help out where I can.
yeah, because we
So,
can trade, whatever you
yeah.
want to know on this end, we could help you with,
Mhm.
whatever we can. But yeah, well, did you have more questions?
Well, I just want it's not really a question. It's more of just saying. I just want to say that you are such a boss, first of all, because I like what you said, which is like, am I gonna BS it and say that I kind of want to do it, but I don't really know, or am I gonna go full force on it and actually take a leap and just really walk in alignment with what I feel like is for me? And big respect to that, because there's so many artists out here that are literal geniuses and they will not take that leap out of fear, out of doubt. Yeah. So
And you
I
got to
just want to
think
say
too,
thank you.
that's, yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that. And you got to think too, think about the amount of people in general that is the case, where they'll just never put that into action and they'll never know what could have been because they don't want to take the risk. So I think to me, it just boiled down to, like I said, about not having regrets. So I don't think would ever want to get to the end of my life, however long it may be, and just be like, oh, well, I never even tried. Well, then that doesn't sound like a life well lived to me. And everybody's their own person. They're going to make their own decisions. But yeah, I'm definitely glad that was the route that I took. So
Yes. Yes. I think it's a genius idea.
And it's a huge, a
It's
huge blessing to get to be able to do something that you love every day, wake up and work towards that. I know you say you were in college, right? Are you, or did you go to college for music?
So I went to community college. My major was media and technology. So I took a couple music classes, but it was some film classes and photography, a lot of stuff. And I only went for 4 semesters. So what I did was I dropped out of community college and I invested into doing more master classes, online stuff, specifically for music marketing. So I've taken, I think, 2 to 3 marketing classes over the past 5 years. And those really, I credit those with a lot of being able to shift my mindset to being able to build on social media and really just keep the consistency up there. And like those helped me tenfold. And that decision just came from, being able to learn what I needed to go where I was headed in life. Like a lot of people, I think they just go kind of blindly and they don't really know, what they need, what type of information they need to be receiving. And I knew for me, it was like community college isn't going to get me where I'm trying to go. And they don't really teach you what you need for today. So I just had that understanding. And again, great decision because it's put me so further ahead of where I could have been. I think if I had just stayed in there, and not to mention I was failing a lot of classes. So we're not going to go there. But, I think it was just that decision of having that understanding to learn from people that were already doing what I wanted to do instead of just some random person from down the street who could care less because they're just there to get paid. Um, and so I definitely would encourage anyone to do that as well, because I know that a lot of people are under pressure from maybe their parents or someone else that you got to do this, and this is only one way to do it. It's like you got to find the way that's right for you to do it because that's the only thing that matters. And don't be afraid to make those shifts in your life. And I was told by people that that was a terrible idea. A lot of people didn't like what I did, but I'm definitely glad I did it because it was the right decision. And I look back and I'm just like, yep, that was the right decision. And it's benefited in so many ways. So, um, yeah, just again, you don't even stop educating yourself. You just have to find the right education for you. And luckily, we're in the era now where, like I said, there's master classes. You could go, you want to learn how to cook, go get the Bobby Flay master class. You're going to learn so much about cooking from the guy that's one of the biggest chefs in the world. Like, that's a great way to do it. And you could do that from your home. You know what I mean? You pay way less than you would going to college. Why would you not want to do that? Like there's just so much access now compared to what it was in the 80s or the 90s. And I know a lot of people are just kind of stuck in their ways and they never are going to see that. They're never going to accept that things are changing. But, I would definitely encourage, especially if you're into the arts too, to really know one way to do it. Just kind of find the way that works for you and just take the time to build it up and like see where it goes. But I definitely credit, the people that I learned from and even indirect mentors or just videos I've watched on social media, the people that I listen to for really helping me to, have that mindset shift and get to where I am now and hopefully where I keep going from here. So,
Yes.
I know that's right.
And I love that it's not just the hustle and the dedication that you have, but it's also the heart and the kindness that you put behind it.
Mhm.
I just
It brings greater value.
yeah, and we want to
honestly.
adopt you as our brother. So if
I'm
that's
honored.
cool,
I'm
yeah, we
honored.
would love to have you as our
We'll
brother.
send over the
And
paperwork later.
well, I'm excited to see what's to come because I feel like this is just the beginning. I think both of us are sitting on multi-million-dollar empires that are just, in the startup stages. And it's interesting because we're gonna put our heads together and see what we can come up with. I think, we're unstoppable already, obviously. And we obviously have the heart and the passion behind it, which seems to be so rare nowadays. But like you said, we manifest and attract our tribe, and I feel like we've been so lucky and blessed to be able to do that. Seems like almost 99.9% of every single body that we come in contact with is
On
so
that level.
special. Yeah, it's so special to us. So
and not just that, it's the fact that you hit it again right on the nail. Like, we are in the age of knowledge. You should be learning something every single day. You should be learning something new every single day if you want to perfect your craft, if you really want to develop this skill, if you want to be the best artist that you can be, the best creative you can be, entrepreneur, whatever it is you want to be. If you are constantly out there looking for the knowledge and doing the work behind it, you'll get it. Ain't nothing that can stop you. Nothing.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I think they self-sabotage themselves too, and they're always quick to blame others. But it's like you got to kind of look in the mirror sometimes too and ask yourself, do you really want to do it? You know what I mean? Because I think for a lot of people, the answer is actually no, but they just keep telling themselves it's yes. And so that was a big thing for me too, was like, and still always is. It's like you got to sit down with yourself and say, do I still have the passion for it? Or do I still want to do this? And, usually 9 times out of 10, if the answer is still yes, you have no problem continuing. You know what I mean? Because if you love it, you don't even think about it. So you're already doing it. So I definitely think for you guys, that's the case. And because you guys were saying that on the podcast yesterday about just the energy you put out is the energy you'll get back. You know what I mean? So I definitely agree with that. And I think that's just true for everyone. So,
yeah, that's law. That's law, universal law.
Yeah.
Right.
You're trying to get it, you got to put it out. It is what it is.
Right. And we want everybody to follow you, Anthony Church and the Proven Knowledge podcast. We'll have all of your links together so everybody can link up with you and get to check out your podcast and maybe be a guest on your podcast in the future. And check out your beats because everybody needs that fire right there.
Okay.
So
yes, but before we let you go anywhere, is there anything else you would like to leave the listeners and the supporters with?
Yeah, definitely I think just kind of like in a nutshell of everything I said about just, don't be afraid. I know it is scary. And like, even I think when you do it it's still scary, but it gets less scary. You know what I mean? Like the more you do it, the fear kind of goes down and down and down. And, just continue to take risks and be yourself more than anything else. Like be genuine, and you don't have to be like anyone else. You don't have to be like your favorite artist. You got to just be like you know what I mean? And put yourself out there and, connect with the right people. And I just want to tell you two, thank you again so much for being genuine and being yourselves and allowing me to connect with you guys, and for being a guest yesterday and dropping some great words of wisdom. It was like a sound bite I need to take and just make that like the anthem right there. And for allowing me to be on here and speak, and just everything you guys are doing, I think is incredible. So, thank you again so much. And I agree. I think this is only the beginning of what we're both going to be doing. So
For sure,
Aw.
for sure. This is the beginning of a great, 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 long-lasting friendship, because
Yes.
that's what this community of people and creatives that we're creating with each other is sick. I mean, it
Mhm.
is amazing. So
Yeah.
we just want to say thank you for coming onto our platform and also using it to spread your message and spread your knowledge and just being a creative, period.
Yes, thank you, King. We send you lots of
Absolutely.
love over there.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Rise like a phoenix into a realm of the unknown.